Tonight's 1-minute lesson is about web browsers. Web browsers are that indispensable piece of software that converts pages on the World Wide Web to something that you can read and interact with. For some people, the web is the internet. You may not realize it, but you have many choices when you use a web browser. Should you just use whatever came with your computer? Isn't that good enough? Well, they all work just fine, so why should you ever consider alternatives anyway? They are all the same, right? We all want a web browser that is fast and full-featured, but what else is there? Well, are you interested in some important features like security and privacy? You should be. This lesson considers in some depth the important features of security and privacy. Web browser security is defined as how well the web browser protects you from hackers, web page vulnerabilities, and online exploits. Web browser privacy considers how much data the web browser is collecting about you, where you browse, and how your browser uses or doesn't use the data it is collecting about you. You may or may not be concerned about web browser privacy, but everyone should be concerned about web browser security, especially if you use your web browser for online purchases or online banking. This figure shows the 5 most popular web browsers through the end of March 2022. Only one of these 5 is among the top 3 most secure and private. Can you guess which one? Google's Chrome browser is the most popular and is available on Windows, iOS, and Android devices. Google Chrome was originally released in 2008. Safari is Apple's official web browser, available on iOS and Windows only. It is bundled with every Apple device from their smartphones to tablets and Mac computers. Safari was originally released in 2003. Microsoft's Edge is their successor to the older Internet Explorer. The latest version is based on the Chromium open source code, but modified by Microsoft. It comes bundled with the Windows operating system, but is also available on iOS, Android, and Linux. Edge for Windows was originally released in 2015. Firefox is a web browser developed by the Mozilla Corporation, which is supported by the nonprofit Mozilla Foundation. Firefox is a descendant of the original Mozilla web browser, which is descended from the Netscape Navigator browser, originated in 1994. Firefox was originally released in 2004. Opera is a multi-platform web browser developed by an Oslo, Norway company of the same name. It has been around since 1995 and has a small but loyal following, mostly in Europe. Did you get that Firefox is among the top 3 most secure and private web browsers? If so, give yourself a pat on the back and 1 nerd star. In order to figure out which browsers are the most secure and private, I performed an online meta review process. The meta review is a summary review of reviews found online. So it's a review of reviews. I figured that a meta review would help eliminate my own personal biases as well as biases from the different reviewers conducting the reviews. I started by doing a web search for the terms most secure web browser for Windows 10, and then I looked at the results. The search results were generally reviews of groups of web browsers by different organizations or websites, many of which were VPN or virtual private network providers. You would expect the VPN providers would be interested in secure and private web browsers, since they are key to the VPN products they offer for sale. I found many reviews, but I limited the reviews I tabulated to those which considered at least 5 web browsers in their set of browsers they reviewed. The number of web browsers considered in the reviews ranged from 5 to 16. Each review ranked the browsers they evaluated in order from most secure and private to least secure and private. I ended up with 13 reviews covering 17 different web browsers. This list shows the 13 reviews considered in the meta review and the number of web browsers in each review. The 5 VPN companies have VPN in their name. Here's a quick look into a couple of the reviews so you can get an idea of what they look like. For example, the review from TechRadar had 5 browsers considered, and it's fairly short. It starts with a review of some VPNs, and then it ranks each of the browsers they looked at in numerical order with comments below. Same thing for the ExpressVPN review. You can see that it looks at each of the web browsers individually, and it ended up with a ranked list. So these are the types of lists that I ended up with for this meta review. I used the browser rankings from each review to assign a rating. 1 was best, the second best was 2, etc. for each review. I calculated an average ranking for each web browser and then sorted the rankings in a spreadsheet from best to worst. Here is the spreadsheet of the tabulated results of the meta review. So I'll open the spreadsheet and you can see all the different browsers, all of the 13 different reviews that I considered, and the average score and the number of ratings. There was a clear group of 3 web browsers at the top of the privacy and security rankings. Tor, Firefox, and Brave were in a group clearly above the rest. I decided to look more closely into these 3 as well as the most popular browsers, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and Apple Safari, to see why they ranked the way they did. This closer look showed the pros and cons of each web browser and how those qualities contributed to their ranking. Tor is an unusual browser distinct from all the rest in that it was explicitly designed to use the Tor network. The Tor network disguises the IP address of the Tor user by routing traffic through a series of relay servers to the intended destination. For this reason, Tor traffic is basically untrackable. This feature of Tor makes it highly secure, but somewhat slower responding than other browsers. Firefox provides its security primarily through highly customizable security features which the user must set. It is well supported and frequently updated. Brave is a relatively new web browser based on the open source Chromium engine. It was first released in November of 2019. Its entire design was tuned for privacy, security, and speed, although its optional Tor mode doesn't strictly meet the Tor standards. We have been using the Brave web browser as the standard for church computers since July 2020. We recently began using the Brave search engine for internet searches. Brave is fast, reliable, and well supported. If you don't mind Google tracking your every move, saving it, and feeding you lots of ads, Google Chrome is a good choice. It is fast, reliable, and well supported. You must have a Google account to use Google Chrome. Microsoft capitulated in the browser wars to Chrome and built their Edge browser on their proprietary version of the open source Chromium engine. Edge is well supported, bundled with the Windows operating system, but it collects data on your browsing and sends it to Microsoft for their purposes, whatever those are. Safari has been Apple's standard browser for years. It is not as frequently updated as the other popular browsers, but handles privacy and security well. So there you have it, a quick evaluation of the most secure and private web browsers currently available. All but one of the church computers have been using the Brave web browser for almost 2 years, since July of 2020. It's your choice what web browser you will use. Choose wisely. And that's your 1-minute lesson for tonight.